Hey, it's Wax Wednesday stuff I picked up. Hey, it's Rob. Thanks for joining me again. Hey, how about this shirt, right? Telling you, hot fun in the summertime. Yeah, I hope you're having a great summer. It's actually starting to feel like it around this neck of the woods. Getting some nice weather now, finally, and man, still buying the records, and I got a few to talk about. So let's get right to it, because I know your time is precious when it's this nice out. So I don't want to waste any. And I'll try to be quick. I always say that. I still end up yap, 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 yap. Anyway, here we go. Kind of an appropriate time to pick up this particular album. And it's exciting to pick up an album by something that, kind of started something. But I say it's timely in a sense that, Black Sabbath, they did that one final hometown show this past weekend. Ozzy, dealing with Parkinson's and has for a few years now. At 76, he's been a rock and roll warrior for a long time. So, he wanted to go out with a bang and a little hometown party, and it was nice to see Bill Ward behind the kit again. And the guys doing it one more time for old time's sake. And, Ozzy Osbourne, he's an icon. He's a legend. And it all started with this album right here. Black Sabbath, Black Sabbath. I think if you drop the needle on side one and you play the song Black Sabbath, I think you get the blueprint for rock and roll right there. You got the rain and the thunder clap and the chiming bells and the slow plodding riff, and that's the big bang for heavy metal right there. And this album, I don't know if you can say there's another album that would be more responsible for starting metal. This would predate, maybe not Deep Purple, but maybe when Deep Purple finally moved in that direction, definitely predates that. And of course, it's way ahead of the curve on, all that stuff that came out through the mid to late 70s. Of course, out of Birmingham, England. This is the debut album. It's. I think I've had this on cassette before. This is my first time actually having it on vinyl, believe it or not. So yeah, and I don't own that much metal. Like, I've got some stuff. Like, I do have some Deep Purple and some Motorhead, and I don't know, some of the party stuff, like some early Van Halen, and I don't know if you want to dig a little deeper. If you want to call Led Zeppelin metal, sure. But, of that era, there's also Aerosmith. I got some of that. You get the idea. But as far as, straight out metal, I wouldn't call that a strength of my collection. So it's nice to have this. I think I have volume 4 as well. Because, I do like Sabbath and what they represent. So yeah, good time to pick this one up. Moving right along. Maybe we are going to get this one done a little quicker. Is there anything else I should have said about Sabbath? Nah, guess not. Keeping with England, though, another British act. This is actually a career retrospective. A guy I actually like a lot, and probably is better known in England than he is in North America. But, he did have a couple of moments in the sun with songs like All the Young Dudes, which he made with a hit with his band Mott the Hoople. And, of course, as a solo artist, Once Bitten, Twice Shy. I'm talking about Ian Hunter. This is a 2-album set called Shades of Ian Hunter. And it does really span his career. Mott the Hoople were one of those British acts that never really translated over here. But over there, they were definitely had a very strong cult following, for sure. Especially in the early days. I think that's what you'd have to call it. But, they were getting pretty frustrated with some weak album sales, despite their reputation as a great live act. They were just one of those bands that couldn't really translate that into the studio. So, yeah, they were ready to, call it a day. Said, I'm going to become a plumber. This isn't working out. But David Bowie always wanted to keep his ear to the ground on things that anyway, he was a fan of Mott the Hoople, and at his insistence, he said, "Guys, I'll give you a song. I'll give you one of my songs, and you can chart with it, and it'll rejuvenate your career, and please don't quit." Basically, is what the gesture is saying. So they were offered Suffragette City first, and man, they turned that down. That's such a great song, but I think they were looking for something with a little more power, a little more anthemic. So All the Young Dudes, which was pitched to them, and they said, "Yeah, okay, we'll do that one," and it did go top 10, and it did make put them back on track a little bit, and they were managing to actually sell some records for a change instead of just barely getting by. So that's kind of a bit of a comeback story, but when you look at Mott the Hoople, you have to look at the front guy. I mean, they had a great thing going with the band. It was a lot of cool players like Overend Watts and Mick Ralphs, rest in peace, who recently just passed away, who also went on to form Bad Company. I mean, it's just a powerful live unit. But it wouldn't have been anything without the lyrics of Ian Hunter. Ian Hunter, as far as that, if we say Patti Smith was the Dylan for punk. If glam rock needed a Dylan, it probably would have been this guy right here, because he was good with words and the turn of a phrase, and a lot of that glam stuff got tossed away as or written off as sort of bubblegum music, and you couldn't say that about these guys, because they did write pretty cool songs, and once they had people's attention, they could prove it, and they did have a couple of great albums to back up the success of All the Young Dudes, including the album Mott and the follow-up album, which was simply called The Hoople. Anyway. And of course, a solo career post that, and some of that spent with, speaking of David Bowie's valued sideman, Mick Ronson. Actually, Mick and Ian Hunter were super tight and were actually a pretty strong songwriting duo themselves as the 70s gave way to the 80s. But yeah, this has all the ones you would expect. All the Young Dudes, of course, is on here. Their version of Sweet Jane, the Velvet Underground song, which you can't go wrong with that. All the Way from Memphis, which is just a great rocker from that Mott album. Same thing for I Wish I Was Your Mother and Roll Away the Stone. They're all here. There's some live stuff from Ian's solo career. There's, of course, Once Bitten, Twice Shy. And, of course, the original version of Cleveland Rocks, which was called England Rocks. Anyway, he's one of those guys you'd probably say, I'm not really sure I know him, but trust me, he's one of those guys. He's sneaky. You know more of his music than you realize. It's Ian Hunter. And the Ballad of Ian Hunter and Mott the Hoople, Shades of Ian Hunter. 2 albums set. Nice to have that. And last but not least, sometimes you just go into a record store and you just say, oh, man, I just want to try something new. I just want to, get that thrill of discovering something that's just going to knock my socks off. This little, unassuming little indie thing that no one's ever heard of, and maybe I can pan for some gold out of this used section of Backstreet Taz, and that's what you hope for, because I remember over the years the few times that I've really lucked into something just because I just bought it on a whim, because I like the artwork, or I like the name of it, or they look cool. Sometimes that pays off, and sometimes it doesn't. I will say this is rather and fair game for being tempted with this artwork, because I think it's really interesting. The band is called, what is it? Taker. The band is called Taker. And I took her because I thought this was cool artwork. The album itself is called Permanent Makeup, but it's kind of a weird little design. It almost looks like some sort of folk art kind of cave drawing sort of vibe. When I saw it, I asked, well, what's this all about? And Eric said, I honestly don't know what they sound like, but he said the label that they're on features a lot of garage stuff. So I said, okay, well, I might be down with that. So, and it was only $10. So, sometimes you roll the dice. I rolled the dice. And, probably not going to hold on to that too long. For the artwork, 9 out of 10. And I can see how I was fished in on that one. But yeah, dropping the needle on it reminded me of a lot of mediocre all ages shows that I've heard over the years. And I don't know, yeah, it did fall under garage, but it wasn't particularly interesting, or sometimes you can forgive a little roughness if you can kind of still hear the bones of a great song in there, and that song kind of makes up for the production and maybe even performance. Sometimes you luck into a great one, and that's kind of what I was hoping for here, but I didn't get that from Taker, yeah. I might take her back and see if I can salvage a couple of bucks on credit, or I might keep it around. Maybe I'll frame that. Is that interesting enough to be framed? Then someone's going to walk into my house and say, "Oh, you really like the band Taker?" And I'll have to be honest. I'll say, no, I actually don't like the band Taker. But whoever is responsible for this cover, I think you're pretty cool. But anyway, Taker, Ian Hunter, and of course, last but not least, Black Sabbath, R.I.P. But may Ozzy live forever. That's it for Wax Wednesday. Stuff I picked up. We'll do it again next week. Take care, eh? And we'll talk to you real soon. And remember, home is where your records are, so throw one on tonight. Take care, and we'll talk soon. Cheers.